Welcome to the wonderful world of Lunn Learning, a new and exciting way for children to learn about nature, wildlife and conservation through stories. The first is an adventure story called The Squirrel. Chapter 5, The Meeting of Minds.
Thank you, Mum. As I said, I open the floor for discussion.
There was silence. Nobody said a word.
Well, who has an idea?
The silence continued. Red shuffled his paws awkwardly.
Yes, Colonel Red, you have an idea?
Sir, I was just shuffling my paws, sir. The silence continued. Then Whiskers raised his front paw. Stick looked pleased.
At last somebody is brave enough to get the ball rolling. Sir, I haven't got a ball. I just want to ask.
And then Whiskers lost his courage to ask his question.
What is it? We haven't got all day,
Stick snapped.
I just wanted to ask if I could leave the meeting. Why? It's only just started. I need to go to the toilet.
Whiskers stammered and looked as if he was about to cry. What a splendid idea, Whiskers, said her ladyship. I think we could all do with a toilet break. All those in favour, raise your paw. Whiskers immediately raised his paw, followed by her ladyship, followed by Red. They all looked at Stick, who seemed quite irritated.
Oh, very well. Be quick. That's an order. I'll count down from 20, and if you're not all back by the time I finish, there will be serious consequences. 20, 19, 18.
Whiskers scurried away. Red followed, and as he watched Whiskers disappear into the distance, he got an idea. He twiddled the few hairs he had left on the ends of his ears and had a quick think. Then he returned to the stump with a big smile on his face.
8, 7, 6.
Whiskers rushed back and quickly stood to attention as Stick said,
3, 2, 1. Attention!
Stick glared at Whiskers, and after a long, hard look, he decided to be less strict and said,
All right, Major Whiskers. You may stand at ease.
Red raised his front paw. Stick frowned and exclaimed,
Now what? Really, this is becoming intolerable.
Sir, permission to speak, sir, said Red.
Permission granted,
replied Stick. Red cleared his throat and said, I have an idea. Her ladyship raised an eyebrow and slowly turned her head. She looked straight at him. Red's heart was pounding and his tummy fluttered, but he stayed calm and said one word. Temptation. Her ladyship's eyes twinkled and she gave him a big smile and winked at him. Red felt he was about to faint, but he took a deep breath and said, We need to tempt the greys away with nuts and make them go to a place where the pine martens will chase them out of the forest and keep them out forever. There was a stunned silence. Then everybody spoke at once, asking Red lots of questions. Where would they get the nuts from? What place would they go to? Why would the pine martens help? Who would be brave enough to tempt the greys away? When would this happen? How would the pine martens keep the greys out of the forest? Red didn't know who to answer first, but he did know the answers to all the questions. Everyone became very excited and had lots of ideas. Stick paced around using his stagger stick to steady himself. He listened to all the ideas, he listened to all the questions, and he listened to all of Red's answers. When he'd heard enough, he decided to bring the meeting back to order. Stick stood by the stump, raised his stagger stick high in the air, and called out in a booming voice, "Order!" They all turned to look at Stick, then returned to their places at the stump and were silent as he began to speak. "I have listened to all your questions. I have listened to all of Colonel Red's answers. I have heard all your ideas. I am very impressed." He paused and looked straight at Red, then turned to address her ladyship. "Your ladyship, you asked who would be brave enough to tempt the Greys away. I know exactly who that is. It is Colonel Red. I propose that Colonel Red is not only in charge of the operation, but he also leads it." Everyone looked at Red. He didn't move. He was frozen by fear. Stick continued. "All those in favour of Colonel Red leading the operation say aye, and those against say nay." Everyone said aye. Nobody said nay. "The vote is unanimous," proclaimed Stick. "Colonel Red leads the operation." Whiskers clapped his paws and cheered with delight. Stick continued. "I shall create the battle plan based on all of your superb ideas. The operation shall have the code name Operation Grey Away. This meeting is now over." He tapped his stick against the stump and everyone began to walk away. Everyone except Red. Red stood motionless as he stared into the distance. "What have I done?" he asked himself. "Why did they all vote aye for me to be the leader?" Red began to tremble. Her ladyship's whisper in his ear broke his trance. "I did wonder if you would ever surprise me and do something to impress me, Red," she said softly. He turned to look at her. His heart did its usual flutter, but this time he was able to look at her without feeling faint. She was so close that he could smell the sweet scent of her fur, and he could feel her warm breath on his face. She continued, "I think this might be it, Red. I am impressed that it will be you who will be leading the operation." She smiled and stroked her tail with her paws. Then she turned to leave. Quick as a flash, she turned back and said, "Yes, I am very impressed." She winked at him, then did her usual leap in the air and bounced away on the forest floor. She was gone. Red stood there for some time thinking about everything that had happened. Was he brave enough to be the leader? Would he do a good job? He really didn't know. "There's only one way to find out," he said out loud. Red puffed out his chest and said, "I am Colonel Red, and I am in charge." He liked the sound of that. He smiled his huge smile, but then he felt very tired. "I'd better go to bed," he thought. So went back to his den for some supper and a good night's sleep. Written and narrated by Fiona Lunn. Recorded by Tony O'Malley. Produced by Guy Benoist. Illustrations by Sarah Westaway.